Hey, so you may have noticed that I have been making a lot of new videos lately, and this started almost immediately after I had a shift, an energetic feeling shift about 2 weeks ago that was very similar feeling to the shift that I had in December of 2019, right before I started this channel. It was almost a physical, like I almost felt like my actual visible field, whatever you would call that, like everything I could see, it almost felt like, it just felt like there was a movement there in a way. Very weird. Same thing, same exact thing before I started this channel. It was like a, something that I understood in a conceptual way suddenly started to make sense in a real way. In 2019, it was that you are responsible for your entire, you have influence over your entire reality. Whereas I had, for some reason, been operating for the decades before that, kind of feeling like I had control over, influence over most things, but that the really important things I didn't, which for me at the time, what I thought was the most important thing for me was other people. I was single and feeling like my life would be meaningless if I never got into the right relationship. I had this idea about that, like it was going to fulfill me and be the meaning for my life. And it wasn't until I realized that actually it was no different than creating wealth or creating physical changes or whatever, that, I had this, it created this shift when it clicked. It just clicked. I read some words that were probably not even that relevant, but for whatever reason, that was the moment that it clicked into place. And, when I realized that, other stuff just dropped away. The importance about the relationship dropped away when I realized that it wasn't going to give me the thing I thought it was going to. Just, it all rapidly changed. And this little awakening, my life's never been the same. And I had something similar to this, I think the day before I made all of my videos public again. And this time, and of course, this is pretty early into this, so I can't talk a lot about the experience of it yet, but it finally clicked into place for me. Not just what everybody as you pushed out means, because I get that. I've talked about that on this channel. My explanation of everybody as you pushed out and what that means is not what it is for most everybody else that I've seen. But it clicked into place what that actually means for my life. And what everyone is you pushed out means, maybe just for me, but I'm guessing this is pretty universal, is not that you create everyone else's behavior. It's not that your thoughts about what someone else is going to do makes them do that thing. It's not that you have created all of these people, like you, the person watching this video, are not responsible for like all of the you didn't create this from any level of understanding where that would even make any sense or be relevant. But what it does mean is that you're essentially living 100% of the time in a world on which you project everything. And, there is some shared reality here. You and I could both point at something and say, that is a white pole. And that's about as far as it goes, because what a white pole is to me and what a white pole is to you might be something completely different. Probably is something different in some way. Maybe not completely different, but so this I understood. That's what made sense to me. And filtering my own experience through that continued to make sense. So I continue to stand by that. But it didn't translate fully into my experience of my life until a few weeks ago. I suddenly just realized in some kind of like almost tangible way that nobody's opinion of me matters. It's not even relevant because I can never know what it is for real. All you can ever know is what somebody says or what you interpret their actions to mean. And if you know, if you've, whatever, if you know that everything you do is completely filtered through a lens of all your beliefs and yada, 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 then, you know, you should be able to understand that your interpretation of what someone else's actions mean is not reliable. Basically, we're in our own universe and everyone else is in their own universe. And we will never, ever have a meaningful overlap where we can understand what that actually is for somebody else. The only thing that we have is what we're experiencing. And so there's just no point in there's no point in worrying about what somebody else might think. There's no point in worrying about what my words, how they might be misconstrued and misused. There's no reason for me to worry about how I look in this video. And just in general, there's absolutely no reason to be affected emotionally or mentally or whatever in any way by what seems to be somebody else's opinion. It's just not something that could ever be useful, due to the fact that I can never really know what anyone means with anything that they say or think or anything. You're basically, you're basically completely on your own for interpreting everything in your world. And that's why all of this stuff is so important. That's why, you know, imagining a new state, deciding you're going to be something different, you know, that's why it's the only thing that matters, you know? And this is like a really big life change. It's a really big, you know, you could be the kind of person who's like, I don't care what other people think, which was definitely me. And I think when I used to say, I don't care what other people think, what that really meant for me was I'm not going to allow somebody else's opinion to, you know, change what I'm doing. I'm not going to act based on what somebody else thinks or the fear of somebody liking me or not. That's what that means. That, you know, that's what that's meant to me. But this is a shift, like this understanding fully that it's not like I'm not going to act based on what somebody else thinks. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be affected by it, or allow it to shift how you feel or what you think, or, you know, when you really get to the point where you understand fully in a feeling kind of way that it's a complete illusion. It's just, I'm not sure I'm really capturing this. There is no point, none. There's no point in involving anybody else in how you feel about yourself or how you feel about your life or what you do with yourself, because you can't even know what it is anyway. It's just your best guess, and you're probably wrong. And even if you're right, you know, you'll never have any way of knowing that. So it just makes no sense whatsoever to be emotionally affected by anybody else. And honestly, it's a superpower. I really, you know, this has been something for the longest time, especially since, you know, I'm a pretty private person. I'm a little bit of a hermit. I don't really like socialize much. I usually have a partner and that's it. You know, and family and stuff like that. But like, especially since talking on Reddit and talking on YouTube and all that, you know, I've had a huge like barrage of other people's energy coming at me. And one of the things that, you know, that was illuminate, you know, how that affected me, or that affected me, which it did a lot, especially in the beginning, that was obvious. And so one of the first things that I really wanted, you know, was I want to really not care about what anyone else thinks, because then I would be impervious. You know, I could just speak freely, knowing that nothing I was saying or doing, which I pretty much did anyway, but, you know, knowing that nothing I said or did was really going to produce anything from anybody in any way that I could use it. You know, I just really wanted that. I like the idea of being mentally bulletproof, and that was definitely a hole in my armor that became clear when I started this channel. And so I wanted that. I knew I wanted that. It was defined. And so, you know, I've had this series of events over the last, you know, starting with the beginning of this channel, when this started to become like clear to me that I had something I wanted to be different. And then now, you know, there's been a lot of shit that's gone on. My dad died. I had a physical issue that was chronic and causing me a lot of problems. I had living situation issues. There's just been a lot of shit that's gone down. You know, my life has transpired like it does. And it all led to that point where I just kind of had this shift, you know, and it's, you know, I'm making this video because the ideas that I'm talking about are things that, you know, I've read over the years. I've seen different people saying things like this. And I want to just put this out there that, you know, when you fully understand that nobody else's opinions matter, and that because you can't really know what they are, once you realize you can't really know what they are, I mean, it's so freeing. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just like your energy that's been flowing out, you know, it's just like all this energy that's been hemorrhaging throughout your actions your interactions with people throughout the day, you know, every day. Even like just people you talk to online that aren't even there, like this hemorrhaging energy, it just gets cauterized. These like all these places where it's escaping, it stops, and then you have it, you can feel the difference. It's awesome. I wanted to talk about it. I don't know, because I hope that kind of like resonates with somebody. Yeah, I think once you start looking at everybody as you pushed out in less of a how can I control other people type of way, and you start realizing that it's all about you and your projections. And I mean, if you can get past the point where you're like, oh, it's my projection, so I can project that somebody else acts this, you know, once you make it about you and not about somebody else, that's where like the really cool forward motion in your own experience starts to happen. You know, I think if you're still at the point where you want to use all of this information to control somebody else, that it's really coming from a fearful place, which, you know, you can actively do things to address areas of your life where you're sort of living in fear or holding on or really overly attached to something, because that just doesn't happen when you're okay. When you're just okay with everything, you know, these obsessions don't happen. And if you intend to and focus on it, you can find the source of these things and correct them.